Woo. Yo. What's up?
What's
What's going
happening?
on? Welcome to another episode of Starlight Beacon,
Yes,
where we
sir.
review The Mandalorian Season 2, episode, well, this is episode 4, but Chapter
Episode
12,
4, Chapter 12.
The Siege. What's going on, everybody in the chat? How y'all doing? Let us know what's up. How's your Friday? What y'all thought of this episode? JBM, how you doing, sir?
Yeah, man, I'm good. I'm a little tired. It's been a busy week. Busy week of work and study. So TGIF.
For real. Anyway, so we're gonna have an interesting episode because we are pretty divided straight down the middle on this episode.
Straight down the
one.
middle.
We got our first
What's up,
divisive episode.
Divisive difference of opinion.
Strong difference of opinion. Kalisto, what's up?
I'm trying to tone my discontent down just a little bit.
I mean, no, you gotta be open and honest, bro. We're not getting paid for this. So it's like,
let's get into it then, man.
Let's get into it.
So it opened with what's up?
Before we get started, make sure you guys, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you get notifications anytime we go live. Make sure you leave a like on the video. And so now, let's get into it.
Drinking Celsius heat.
Uh-oh.
You know what I mean? This powers me through my day and all that. So Celsius, holler at me for them sponsorships.
Yeah. Hey, man, let us know what scale of 1 to 10. Where would you all rank this episode? Drop that in the chat too. We want to know where you rank it.
10.
1 to 10. So, all right, here we go. Let's go.
I know that's right, Kalisto. I got to be me. I give it a 5.
Get a 5, solid 5.
I rated the show a 5.
Okay. Hey, Kalisto gave it an 8. I'm with you, Kalisto. I'm at an 8.5. I'm at an 8.5.
8.5.
At an 8.5. Oh, baby, that man said a 5.
I said a 5. Ooh, it felt like I feel like we've had 2 filler episodes already, and this felt like another filler episode. I feel like I'm doing a bunch of side quests right now, watching these episodes.
And I would be inclined to agree with you on the fact that there would be 2, but I feel like this one is filler. Now, episode 2, definitely filler. That was well, yeah. Was that episode? Yeah, episode 2.
2 with the spider.
They were traveling with the spiders.
I say all 3 were fillers, just because out of those 3 episodes, where are we with the main plot? Like the main plot, where are we? We got our introduction of Bo-Katan, which was great, but that's not part of the main plot. That didn't move the story forward. It introduced a new character and potential plot device later on, but it didn't move the story forward.
More, my argument would be that maybe it didn't move. Well, world building is important. And they are setting up a large, Disney Plus is going to be the home for Star Wars for the next few years, and they're setting up a lot.
I can see that happening.
Of stuff.
They're setting up a lot. Their own MCU style.
Yes, and it will be done on Disney Plus, and I think it is important for them to introduce the audience to a lot of these characters, locations, settings, people, factions that aren't really mainstream. People don't really know about the Mandalorians. You know what I'm saying? Like, this show has opened up the world to what the Mandalorians are and the people and the culture of Mandalore. People don't know who Bo-Katan was. This will be people's first introduction to Ahsoka Tano. She's probably the more notable person that they've introduced. We got a shot of Boba Fett. We know that he's got a spinoff show in the works.
Yes, where is Boba Fett?
I would also say, we got to keep in mind that of the promotional material that we've gotten, the 2 trailers and any other imagery that we've gotten associated with this season, we've seen everything in all the promotional material. Everything was from the first 4 episodes. Every single shot. we don't know what's going to happen in these next 4 episodes. We hadn't seen anything, so I'm assuming that these next 4 episodes are going to be something spectacular because they've made a conscientious effort to keep it all under wraps. Last season, we got shots from episodes 1 through 8 in all of the promotional material. Like there were shots and key moments that they showcased in all the promotional material. This, they've only shown the first 4 episodes. So like, I'm like, they must be setting up some really big stuff for these bottom 4.
Yeah, I think so. That would make sense.
Yeah. So let's get into it. We're gonna change the format up a little bit because this is, I would like to get into the spoilers and all of that stuff at the end, like the big reveals in the base and with
what do you call it, Dark Troopers.
Yeah, and then we'll backtrack from there. So
all right,
before we get to the Dark Troopers though, the big reveal, big key thing, we got some insight into what they want with the child.
The midichlorians.
Yes, the midichlorians, the M count. You notice, you saw they said M count. They still scared to say midichlorians. they got the Disney shook on midichlorians, boy. Goodness gracious. I'm like, man, we know what y'all talking about, bro. Y'all could have just said midichlorians. Like, ain't nobody got. You're like, come on, man, get out of here with that. But no, M count, whatever, bro. I was like I caught that and I was just like, all right, man, whatever. I'll let that one slide. Mom, 8.75 for the
7.5.
Okay.
Okay, we getting some.
See,
good
here's the thing.
here.
I'm thinking for, especially for a lot of the casual fans, people who definitely don't get into the lore like I do or you, because you are even more into it than some of the more normal people. Like my mom, for instance. Like she's ranking this very high. I think this episode, because it's you're taking a breather to explain and to revisit some places and to see some things that we have seen in previous episodes and to explore some concepts that they don't have to explain later. Like them revealing
what concepts specifically outside of the Dark Trooper. Secret lab.
So the lab. So back to what I was saying previously, the lab with Dr. Parshing revealing that they took the blood sample of the child to try to clone force sensitives. Basically, they're trying to create force sensitives, and this is a common theme in the EU. Like,
so are they cloning? Like, they're using the blood of the child and doing blood transfusions to blood actual transfusions people?
Yes,
and not clones.
They to both because this volunteer that they speak of, I'm not sure. I would wager that that's not a clone, whoever that volunteer is. Now in the expanded universe, in Dark Empire, this is how Palpatine returned. And it was actually the same time period. Like this is 9 years after Return of the Jedi, and that's the same year that Dark Empire is set. Palpatine had a contingency where he had cloned himself with he'd used the Kaminoan cloners and he had cloned himself. And when he was tossed into the pit by Vader, he used a force essence transferred into one of his clones, and it was a younger version of himself, and he took those 9 years to kind of sort of rebuild his strength, and then he came back and took control of the Imperial remnant and actually got Luke to join him, but Luke ended up doing it only to get close to the Emperor so that he could kill him. Spoilers, but that's kind of sort of the concept that they stole for the episode 9. Like they just decided, oh, okay, dark forces, we're going to use this now, and this is how we're going to explain how the Emperor came back. Though it was a story, like I said, that had already been told and was explored. Like they should have incorporated that into the main plot from the jump, but we're neither here nor there.
The Dark side power is definitely a dark side motive, I would say.
So
Maybe.
force sensitive, so force transfer, essence transfer, yes, that's a dark side ability. And I honestly, I don't think so. It might not be. I think it's kind of neutral because it really depends on how you use it.
Really? You think a Jedi would do that? They won't even train kids that don't have the
No,
metachlorians.
it's not. But see, it's about, so the power itself. Like there was a light side version of Force Lightning. I forget what it's called, but it basically it stunned. It didn't it could paralyze you. Like it didn't cause any pain. It just gave you paralysis. Basically, it's about the intent of how you're using the power more so than the power itself.
Has there been examples of light side use of force sensitive transfer?
No, there hasn't. But here's why I said it is used by a lot of dark side entities. Trust me. Like the Palpatine was one that used it. The Vitiate, the first Sith Emperor, well, not first Sith Emperor, but the Sith Emperor from the Old Republic era, he used it quite a bit. But so him cloning himself, he's kind of sort of just transferring his essence into another version of himself. That's not really
Emperor.
Yeah, how Palpatine used it. This is kind of not. I wouldn't consider that really dark side because he cloned himself and then just transferred his consciousness into another version of himself. Now,
you talking about Snow?
No, Palpatine. This is the dark. I'm referring to Dark Empire comic.
Okay.
That six. It's a 6 series run. Where this is how the Emperor returned in the EU. That the first time was his contingency, just in case he died. He had basically he made millions of clones of himself, and so he just
do this egomaniac.
Yeah. So when he was that was his contingency. If he died, he would just use the Force essence transfer and then transfer his essence into another one of his clones. And then that kind of sort of got retconned a little bit because the Force Unleashed video game, they had the same thing where Vader's apprentice, I forget his name, but he gets cloned, but they have issues with creating a Force sensitive clone of himself because he can't transfer his essence.
Callisto was asking about that. It's transferring his essence means it transfers his consciousness.
Yeah, it's his consciousness, and so he's transferring his consciousness into another being. Now, this is before they introduced midichlorians. Midichlorians kind of changed how all this works because you kind of have to have someone who's got a matching midichlorian count in order for this to work effectively. But then again, I guess if the Emperor is cloning himself, then the clone probably does have the same midichlorian count. Possibly. I can't remember the details of how all that worked. It didn't have to. It wasn't explained in the Dark Empire comic because at the time there's no such thing as midichlorians. But I would imagine that that's kind of sort of why they're having issues with the cloning process right now. In the Mandalorian, it's because of the midichlorians. And I'd imagine that they're trying to get someone with a high midichlorian count to use, because I'd imagine that Palpatine has a pretty high midichlorian count, and you would need to find a host that had a similar cell count, midichlorian count as Palpatine.
Yeah, I see that. So in this case, the midichlorians are kind of acting like stem cells. Yeah.
And no scientist has been able to reproduce midichlorians in a living host, in the host body. Like, that's why it always fails. Force sensitivity it's anybody can kind of learn how to, everybody is force sensitive in the Star Wars universe, but you have to be open to it in order to use use the Force. Like, you have to be open to the idea, but that would almost require some people to kind of reposition their life. Almost like you would have to change your whole being in order to allow the Force to control you. Because it is a symbiotic relationship that beings have with the Force. Like instinct in the Star Wars universe, that's all Force. That's instinct. That's the Force communicating with you. Like that's the irony of Han Solo. Like, he relied heavily on his instincts, and that was the Force communicating with him, telling him what he should and shouldn't do, yet he didn't believe in the Force. Like, that's the irony in all of that.
Okay, so Moff Gideon is trying to make a new era of the Empire with these Force sensitive dark troopers.
Okay, so there's a difference. There's a shadow trooper, those were Force sensitive stormtroopers. And then there are dark troopers. Dark troopers are not Force sensitive. There are different. There are 4 different phases of dark troopers. You got phase 0, they were cyborg clones, but they were super expensive to clone and then create a cybernetic enhancement for a stormtrooper. Phase 1 was basically a super battle droid stormtrooper, but it had
battle droid stormtrooper.
Basically, that's what I would liken it to.
Like a robot.
However,
a robot.
Yeah, like from the Clone Wars. Like, it would be I would equate it to the super battle droid, not that basic B1 unit, but the big bulky dark blue ones. Yeah, with the wrist blaster.
Okay.
But so here's the thing: the dark troopers had armor that was resistant to lightsabers. Why is that interesting? Because Moff Gideon probably is in control of Mandalore, and he's using Beskar as payment. Remember, if we go back to season 1, they're using Beskar as payment for to commission to get the child, right? So I'd imagine he has a huge stock of Beskar. He's probably also using the Beskar to create the dark troopers, the armor for the dark troopers. So if those dark troopers are equipped with Beskar armor, that's going to be a huge advantage that the Mandalore and any Jedi like Ahsoka would not be prepared for. Like, that gives him a huge advantage. As far as the cloning piece, I think a lot of that has to do with, I think Moff Gideon is connected to the First Order, and I was doing that he knows Palpatine is out in the unknown region and is he's part of the task force to bring him back to life. I think that those two things are not connected. I think he created that dark trooper unit for his regiment because he's in an R-Quinton class light cruiser. He doesn't have an ISD. I doubt that he has one in his fleet. Otherwise, that would probably be his base of operations instead of that little R-Quinton's class. I think that that's his ace in the hole are those dark troopers.
Yeah, they would have to be. I hope this has no tie-in to the First Order or anything connected to the new sequels.
So I think so before this season even, well, not series the season, but the series even launched, they said that you would see the beginnings of how the Imperial Remnant transition into the First Order. They said that before season 1 even aired. Like, there would be some ties. So I'm not sure how close those connections are, but that has been in the plan since the jump. Like, this is not something that they've just decided for season 2 is what they're going to introduce. Like, I remember in promotions they were talking about there's an Imperial Remnant and that we will see how that remnant turns into the First Order.
Okay.
And I think we're starting to see some of that. Like, I think that telltale sign, like, so if you go back I think to episode 9 with the Sith fleet and the Imperial officers. They're all in black, and then they have that red like lining. Moff Gideon, his armor is all black, and his cape, the inside of his cape's got that red lining. I think that's part. I think that is his connection to the first. I think he is a part of the First Order, or at least the Final Order. I think he is connected to the Emperor in that way because he's got the same. He's wearing the same colors as the Final Order.
Okay,
That's me speculating, but I think that's the connection. His color scheme matches the Final Order that we see in that last episode 9. So like
there's a connection there. Something happens to those shadow troopers in because they didn't pop up in the new sequels.
Yeah. Now here's my speculation. I think that Mandalore, Bo-Katan, all of them will have to fight Moff Gideon in a final stand. I think they will ultimately defeat Moff Gideon, but I think Mandalore and all the Mandalorians who are going to take, and maybe Ahsoka Tano and possibly any of her apprentice that she's training, or this will be probably in the final season. There'll be a final battle between the Mandalorians, Ahsoka, her forces, possibly any of her apprentice, and the Mandalore in a final standoff between Moff Gideon's forces and the Mandalorians, which I think would be epic. And like the Mandalorians coming out
over their planet.
Yeah. Mandalore. Yeah. And then Bo-Katan hopefully wielding the Darksaber, or gets the Darksaber back from Moff Gideon and unites Mandalore. Once again, I would love to see that. Like, and I think you can still have those ties to the sequel trilogy without them being super opaque. Mm-hmm. And I don't think they're gonna. I hope they don't try to beat us over the head with the references to the sequels, because like I said in previous episodes, like I would rather them just this universe exists outside of the Skywalker sphere of influence. Like, let this. Sure, it's all in the same galaxy. There are some subtle connections, but let this be its own thing.
Yeah, let it stand alone.
Yeah, like build the lore, like build out the galaxy. I like even the pilot talking to Cara Dune at the end, saying that like if we don't have support, if people aren't rallying and asking for help, actively trying to root out this Imperial remnant, the core worlds are never going to respond. Like he's telling her like the Republic's not going to come out here unless y'all ask us to.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. He said, I think I wrote it down somewhere. He said something about we're gonna need help from the locals.
Yeah, like they're going to have to start like causing chaos and like really raising alarms so that the Republic can have reason to respond.
Yeah, and I'm glad they mentioned that because it made sense to see them in an earlier episode patrolling the Outer Rim. Because you remember I had an issue with them policing the Outer Rim like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, well, and for me, because I've read some of the other books during this time period, like they're patrolling the region, but they can't do anything unless they're asked to intervene. Like that's the Republic policy. Whereas the Empire would just find a hideout where there are a bunch of pirates and smugglers, and then all of a sudden they're sending an entire battalion down to take the planet. The Republic is acting more as a democracy, where they're like, well, if the people, ask for our aid, then of course we're going to help. But if they don't, then we won't interfere.
I felt it was a different impression. I got the impression that they were kind of seeking out help from the locals in order to combat whatever is going on out there. Like, I feel like they're going to do it regardless, but they would like help from the locals.
Yeah, I mean, I could totally see a situation where there are certain groups of patrol units that will actively, I think they have authority if they're attacked to, of course, respond with a deadly force, kind of like how we saw with the prison transport when they activated that distress call and they honed it in on that base, on that spaceport that they were in. There were defensive emplacements and they saw a ship launching and they just that was their green light to attack. Like I think they have that level of freedom. But as far as the New Republic sending out, but as far as like the New Republic sending out like a small fleet or like a battalion or anything, I don't think that. I think those scout troops, those scout pilots, like the X-wing pilots, I think they're on their own. Kind of like state troopers.
Yeah, that's exactly what they.
I think that's how they are.
State troopers.
Yeah. A dark trooper in the fighter. No, I think I know exactly what you're talking about. There was a.
That was the last guy, right?
Yeah, there was an Imperial pilot that had a different color helmet. I think he had some patterns, and I honestly think that is just like a special forces unit. Because in what's the game Squadrons, like there are different helmet customizations and colorways that you can choose for your pilot helmet that indicate certain special forces divisions, and I think that's all that color was indicating. But yeah, like that's the thing for me that got me excited about the episode, because an aspect of it is, okay, they're going to make some subtle connections to the sequel trilogy. But I still think the immediate threat is Moff Gideon and his forces, and now these dark troopers, because if those dark troopers have Beskar plates and are lightsaber resistant, like that,
force sensitive is, I don't see how the Mandalorian is gonna combat those.
And also we've got another caveat, was one of the workers that repaired Mando's ship was working for Moff. They were an informant, and they put a tracking device on the ship. So now he's headed off to Ahsoka, and the Moff is tracking him. So like,
Ahsoka been chilling. She been laying low.
Yeah, and on the point of Ahsoka, Ahsoka is the next episode. Like, if anybody had any curiosity or was wondering why she wasn't in this episode, she's in the next episode. Dave Filoni wrote and directed next episode, and that's his baby. So she's going to be in the next episode. And the rumor is the episode title next week is The Jedi. Now, I said this is possibly interesting because Jedi is both singular and plural.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't necessarily mean we're only going to see Ahsoka. Like there's a possibility. I think Josh talked about this on the Den of Nerds on one of the videos he put out today. Is the possibility of her starting her own order, separated from what Luke is doing, and I would love that. Like I would love that the idea of her having her own order. Yeah. The idea of her having her own order is like, that's amazing to me. Like I would love that. And especially if they take this series and keep it away from the Skywalker saga, because then, we don't have to have those connections. It would make sense for there to be another order that exists somewhere else in the galaxy that's not necessarily Jedi, or at least not the same Jedi that Luke in the order that he's creating. Maybe Ahsoka creates her own code and they also follow the light, but they don't, not in the traditional sense of the Jedi, if that makes sense. Imani,
yo, what up?
Also, she gave it 7.5.
All right, yeah, I gave it a 5, Imani.
Yeah. Hey, if you're just tuning in, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you haven't to the channel, man. We definitely appreciate that, in all the support that we can get, and let us know in the comments what you rank this episode 1 through 10. I gave it an 8.5. JBM sitting at a 5. We got a lot of 8s. Monty is the first 7.5, but it's been above. It's been pretty high.
I think Heem gave it a 7.
Yeah, he gave it. He just put it. He just dropped a 7 in there in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm no, because like that's what I'm excited about, like what they're setting up. Oh, I also wanted to point out the fact that before I forget about it, back on the Dark Trooper thing. So, there was a video game in 1995 called Dark Forces where they introduced the Dark Trooper for the first time, and the Dark Troopers they're not force sensitive. They're just they're robots,
black armor.
stormtrooper robots. Yeah, no,
Not cyborgs.
Not the phase 0 were cyborgs, and then phase 1, 2, and 3 were just basically like Terminators. They were basically like Terminator, and you had to fight them. And they had plating that was resilient to lightsabers. So they were and you played Kyle Katarn, and it was a very challenging fight.
Kyle Katarn.
Yeah. So Kyle Katarn is basically the prototype for Finn that they never used, but he was he was a stormtrooper that defected to the rebellion. He became an agent, and then later on became a Jedi, and eventually became Luke's right hand man, basically.
All right. Yeah, these things just look like robots.
Yeah. Now, the interesting thing about them is it is their armor that is the significant differentiator from the robots or the droids from the Clone Wars. One, they're a lot smarter, they're a lot more agile, they're a lot harder to kill, and they, yeah, like I said, they're tough. Now, Dave Filoni created a DT series sentry droid that he introduced in Rebels, which he says was inspired by the Dark Forces Dark Trooper. So I'm thinking that the DT in the DT series droid stands for Dark Trooper, and these droids are also robotic. I would wager that was the phase 1, and I think that what Moff is working on is phase 2 and 3. And hopefully they're equipped with the Beskar armor, because if I want them to have the Beskar plating.
Yeah, I mean, they look like that's what at the end of this episode, what was in those little columns, it looks like they were Dark Troopers. I mean,
yeah. So if you turned on the visual guide, like for not the visual guide, but accessibility features for the visually impaired for the episode, it'll narrate like what's going on screen, and in that scene it says that Moff Gideon is observing the Dark Troopers. So they are Dark Troopers.
Oh, look at that. Okay.
I didn't find that. That was someone else that found that out. Who had phase 1? My theory, phase 1 were if you remember in Rebels, they were the Imperial droids that were on Grand Admiral Thrawn's Imperial Star Destroyer that what's my man? Agent Callus turned against him. If you remember that arc. He had them in his office, and he used them as training combat droids, but I believe those are called DT series sentry droids, and I believe that those are the phase 1 Dark Troopers. That's my running theory. I can't prove it, but that's where I'm at with it.
All right. Well, yeah, I'd like to see what happens with that. I mean, that it'll serve for a good battle scene, those droids versus the Mandalorians.
Yeah, because I mean, as it stands right now, that Imperial remnant has no hope of standing against any united Mandalorian force, which I think is what we're aiming towards right now. The way things are leaning, it seems like the Child and Ahsoka will have their own. The Child will be with Ahsoka, and I keep saying Mandalore, but Mandalorian Din Djarin will go to find Bo-Katan, and they will meet up again, and we'll have a true to form Mandalorian arc.
That'll be for season 3.
That could be for season 3. I think they'll set it up at the end of this season. Like I think we're gonna have a full on like Avengers Assemble moment at the end of this season where we get Ahsoka, we get possibly we'll definitely have Bo-Katan and the Night Owls.
Yeah, Bo-Katan and her gang, Ahsoka and the Mando.
Yeah, I think we'll see the Marshal again. I feel like we'll see Boba Fett. But whose side Boba Fett to be on? I don't know. I don't think he'll be the hero by the end of this season, dog.
The volunteer.
The volunteer? What do you mean?
You said there was a volunteer, right? Didn't they mention
that? That would make a lot of sense though, because he is a clone.
Volunteer,
yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
Hey, Boba Fett is oh god, that's great. I like that because he's a clone too. Yeah, I like that one. I like that. That's a good theory right there. I rock with that. Oh man, yo, if they make Boba Fett force sensitive, Jesus Christ, yo, come on, that would be sick.
That'd be the leader of the new school right there.
Exactly, and then on top of that, him getting his own spinoff show.
Yeah,
I would rock with that.
You'd have a top villain that people would love. You know, that makes a good story.
Bruh, if they make him force sensitive, like this show is up there in that original trilogy atmosphere as far as like where I rank it. If they do all of that, like give Ahsoka her own order, make Boba Fett force sensitive, and then give me a Mandalorian versus the Dark Troopers having like, man, come on, like that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. How many different groups? This is I wonder how many different groups of Mandalorians there will be after everything is happening on Mandalore.
So far, there's 2, right? That they've mentioned in this show.
We've encountered 2 groups so far. Now, here's the interesting thing about how they could use the Darksaber, because the Darksaber is how they unite the clans, right? If Bo-Katan or Bo-Katan or Din Djarin get that Darksaber, when they put out the all call, like every single one of the clans will come to rally behind them because they will be crowned Mandalore. Like all of the different clans and all the different what do they call it? Was it conclave?
What you getting at?
The what was the tribe? What in season 1? What did Din Djarin call the tribe?
Oh, when he said go to the such and such.
Yeah, what was that called?
It was the yeah.
He said when they go to the such and such. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, man. You know what I'm talking about. But yeah.
We'll call it the conclave.
The covert.
Yeah.
The covert. Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Callisto. The covert. Yeah. Now, in the Old Republic, when Mandalore the Ultimate, like this is before there was no Darksaber back then, but I'll get into the details in my Mandalorian Wars breakdown, which is it's coming, by the way. I had to do some more edits to that, but that will be a 3-part explore the lore series on the Mandalorian Wars. Right. First episode should be coming out this Wednesday. I just needed this weekend to make some final edits to those videos. But the Mandalorian Wars it's a 16-year war. I'm like, I can do that in one video. Let's talk about this conflict because there's a lot of implications and there's a lot of things that do we know how much of Sabine? No, we don't actually. Ursa, and I forget her brother's name, but they were alive at the end of Rebels. Now, if they fought in the Purge, we don't know. But they were also members of the Night Owls, Clan Ren. So it doesn't really bode well that they weren't with Bo-Katan when she meets Din Djarin. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're dead. I mean, I don't know. I hope they're alive. At least Sabine and maybe her brother. Hopefully could be alive. I don't know about her mom and her father, but I don't know. The what is it? the Purge seemed pretty bloody.
Mm-hmm.
Purge seemed pretty bloody. Heck yeah, man. Any more questions? Let's keep these questions going. I like the questions.
Yeah, keep going. You want to get into the intro of the show?
Yeah, let's talk about the rest of it. Rest of the show. Um, so I like the Among Us little reference at the beginning with the child connecting the wires.
Yeah, it was a funny moment.
That
When I
was
saw
good.
it, I immediately thought back to Guardians of the Galaxy with Groot.
Baby group. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Those moments are always good. Uh, I did like. So that was an interesting take on Navarro. So to backtrack a little bit, we did. There's a 3 year um, time jump between this season and last season. We were 6 years from Return of the Jedi in season one, and now we're 9 years. So things have progressed, things have changed on Navarro quite significantly, and we see sort of that change once Mando arrives.
Yeah, they've got a
Um,
green zone set up. They got what looks like
yeah,
a pool.
yeah, it looks like he's trying. Grief is trying to make this a legitimate establishment in spaceport and city.
I would have liked to see them delve more into that, how they built up Navarro or that green zone.
Yeah, yeah.
Threw us in there, and I'm like, okay.
Oh shoot! You know what? I think I miss OG Coop Daddy Yoda. That's 7.5 for the episode.
I gave it a 5, man.
Yeah, he was low on it. He was low on it.
Where we at with the 5? Where my 5s at?
I don't know. I don't know. I found. I mean, it was still wildly entertaining for me. And then like the Dark Trooper stuff, the cloning, all of that stuff, where that was like the icing on the cake for me in this episode. But yeah. The Green Zone, Grief Karga. To your point, I think we were talking off camera about that. Like his past as some sort of he was a diplomat or I don't know if this was in the Empire or if this was in the Republic, but he had some sort of he was a political figure at one point before he was the head of the Bounty Hunter Guild.
Yeah, and now he's no longer the head of the guild, or the guild is just no more. Is that right?
Well, he's not the head of it on Navarro. I'm assuming he's disbanded that on Navarro. That's what I'm gonna.
I had a lot of questions about that. I'm like, okay, so
Which I would like to see that in a comic book series. Like I wouldn't mind having a Grief Karga, his past. We see that in a comic book series. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah,
that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, it was interesting to see him go from leading the guild to trying to be this humanitarian person.
Yeah,
gap there. I was like, I need more info on this. Show me something, because that sounds like a great story. Like they could have, I would have liked to see that put into the episode, some type of.
Yeah, I agree with that because they didn't really do a good job of explaining that the time jump between the seasons. They really hadn't even mentioned it. I saw that just reading. I think it's in the plot for the season as a whole that it's 9 years after Return of the Jedi. But it as far as the show goes, like they haven't promoted that at all.
Yeah,
within the show. But yeah,
they explained why they were like they had plans to infiltrate the Imperial base, like why they hadn't done it sooner.
I don't think they explained why in the episode, and I haven't looked into any of why they hadn't done that to that point.
Like he's got connections. He used to run the guild, so what's the hold up with that?
Yeah, my logic would be that in that time jump, in that 3 year gap, I think that he spent the majority of the time stabilizing that green zone. Like there wasn't a green zone prior to, um, definitely not in the previous season. I think that it took him 3 years to get that level of civility and stabilization in that region. And then the Imperial base is the last piece of that. Because from what he was saying was that he was under the impression that it was abandoned. I'm assuming that they had been monitoring it for a while and they hadn't seen too much activity. And whatever activity they saw gave them reason to believe that it was probably a ghost crew there, just maintaining the base, keeping it from sinking into the pits.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I just would have liked to see this episode play out differently. Like we could have already had that lab intel when the Mando arrives and
Oh shoot.
take it from there.
Fanjection, what's going on, man? Thanks for joining us. Good
Regular
episode. Yeah, yo, you know what? I'm not gonna lie to you. That took me out of the episode because it was like the Macrons were in a regular Macron wrapper, and they like it was obviously like Macrons. Like they didn't try to your point, they didn't try to dress it up or anything. Like somebody went straight to Walmart and came back with a pack of Macrons and put them on the table. Like they could have made it a little bit more Star Warsy, in my opinion.
Yeah, they could have did that. But they've been doing that every episode. They've been, throwing little moments in there that remind you of home.
Yeah, but with the accents. Yeah. He doesn't like the
No.
the English accents.
Nah. Give me aliens. Give me different languages.
I do agree with you on that part. I would definitely like to see more alien languages used in the show. And I think if they keep increasing the budgets, they can continue to I want them to actually develop alien languages and not just repeat like 4 or 5 alien words like they do in video games.
Yeah.
Because that gets annoying. Like the Old Republic, for example, like the aliens, I swear it's like only 10 words and they just switch the words up every now and then in the sentences. And it's like, all right, I see the pattern. We don't have a true alien language, but
they didn't have the budget.
I think it's the budget. It takes time to develop a language. You know what I'm saying? Now, Huttese they can use Huttese. Like that's a established language within the Star Wars universe.
They did good with the sand people.
Yeah, well, and then using sign language. Like I love that because that they use actual
deaf people.
deaf people for the stormtroopers. I thought that was brilliant. Love that. Definitely love that.
Yeah.
Man. And then all right, so the school. What do you think about the school?
Sure.
He said sure.
This whole episode, I'm just, going with scene by scene. Like, okay, I didn't, it is what it is.
You gave it a true to form 5. Like that's great.
Yeah, I would imagine a school in the age of Star Wars would be a little different than what we saw, but
hey, it's makeshift, man. He's doing what you got, a protocol droid and some tables in a bar.
Yeah, it's a school,
You know what I'm saying? It's
classroom setup.
Yeah, they're not in the core world saying got like the holograms and all, like they got all that, and they out in the outer rim, bro. They out in the ghetto.
Yeah.
That's what the outer rim is. Just let you know. Listen, George, you want to hear George Lucas explain how the economics of the galaxy and how the core worlds are basically like the economic center of the galaxy, and that's where all the 1%ers live, and then the suburbs is like the mid rim, and then the outer rim is basically the hood,
the third world.
It's the third world. Yeah, that's how the galaxy is positioned.
I can, yeah. All right, whatever. We got it. That's why the
You
police
know.
did too, right? Heavy.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so so in the story, so they get there, we got the little baby in the classroom taking the macaroons, and then they pull up to the Imperial base, right? We
Yeah. Well, we get the what's the Papa Smurf blue alien.
oh let's
We get him again. Hey, look, as
cool.
soon as he popped up, I started laughing. I was like, hey yo, JBM's gonna hate this. I was like, hey, there was no way at that point that this episode was gonna be above a 7 for you. Like I just knew it.
Yeah, so Coop told me this in the Gumbo chat. He said Papa Smurf is back, and I said, "What do you mean he's back?" It was inexplicable.
I had to warn him.
And I said, all right, well, automatically I got to deduct 4 points from this episode. So it couldn't have been any better than a 6.
Oh man.
And
That's
then,
why
yeah, and then the episode, nothing happened of significant value until the last minute. So I said, oh, well, we got to deduct another point. That's how I got to my 5. Ladies and gentlemen.
that's how. So basically, by that logic, then you would have given it a 9 had it not been for Papa Smurf being in the episode.
Nah, because then the whole rating system would change.
Oh Lord, so it's fluctuating. Anyway, all right.
This is the free radicals around.
This is your Stevens A list for
Something like that.
for Star Wars. You can't even
Papa Smurf. Say he's another character, some new type of person, but had the same purpose as being that comedic relief. I give it a 7.
7. Okay.
Maybe 6.5. No, I give it a 6. Yeah, I give it a 6. Yeah, 6.
All right. 6. There we go.
I just, for the first episode was great. It set a high precedent, and then every episode since has just been stagnant outside of the Bo-Katan introduction. I'm like, where are we going with this story? Can we please get to the next stopping point? I want to see, it's just too much filler, man. Somebody, I think it was him that made a reference to a Naruto filler. If these feel like Naruto filler episodes.
So you would say that the episode 2, 3, and 4 have been all filler. Is that what you're saying?
90% filler.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Bo-Katan is, what does that have to do with his main quest? We can see it has something having to do with the story further down the line, but for his main quest is not part of his main quest. I don't, and then outside of that, what do you have? The Dark Troopers. You see Moff Gideon's, I guess, his plan. So I feel like these are just build up for episodes later down the road, and they could have told them differently.
Oh yeah, well, see, because I'm here for all the legacy characters popping up that I haven't seen in live action. Because
it's fun to watch. Story wise, I'm like, all right, let's move along. 2 was cool.
You could swap out Din Djarin with any Mandalorian as far as I care. Like I really, he's got no merit with me. But Ahsoka, Bo-Katan, I mean, I like Grief, I like Kara, I like what they're doing with the universe as a whole. Like for me, this is all about them expanding the lore of the universe and filling in this 40-year gap between episode 6 and episode 7.
Yeah.
You got so much to explore.
I understand that. I just wish, my personal opinion is, they could have told the story a bit differently and still kept the same excitement about introducing these characters. Like,
I can agree with that, but I still wouldn't call these episodes filler.
What would you call them?
I would call it lore building, world building. you got to set up the universe that, like, I mean, that was my main issue with the sequel. Well, not my main issues, but one of my biggest issues with the sequels. It's like everything felt shallow because I didn't understand what was all transpiring in the world around these stories. Like, there's nothing, I've got nothing, no context or anything going on screen. You give me First Order, I don't know how the First Order happened. Give me the New Republic, I can sort of kind of guess how that transpired, but how is this 40 years after Return of the Jedi? Like, how, what, like, explain that 40-year gap to me and how we're to the point. That it just doesn't, like, how does the First Order come back into the picture after 40 years and like no one's said anything about it? Like, I one of that's one of my biggest gripes about the sequels is that they just don't give me anything lore wise to grasp onto. Like, all of that is just straight up fan service without story. Like, this is actually world building. Like, this is actually giving me a foundation and a platform that we can, you know, create other stories from and go in different directions and explore different aspects of this universe that, like, we've been a part of for over 40 years now. Like,
Yeah,
it does have some of that video game logic, but
it's definitely there.
I'm okay with that because that's kind of sort of how I've gotten accustomed to consuming Star Wars content, because on the video games, the prequels, the original trilogy, of course, but the primary source of my Star Wars content has come from the video games, the books, the TV shows, and all of that, where all you've got is basically world building, and then you've got these character arcs in between, but you're really expanding all of this lore. Like,
Where's the world building taking place? I can see Navarro and the Green Zone being world building, but everything else in episode 2, 3, and 4.
like, okay, the interest now, there's world building, and then we also have continuity with them connecting different elements from other stories, like them introducing and implementing the dark saber, like in season 1, blew my mind, because I never, that was a thing, that was something that was only in animation. Like, hardly ever did things cross over, ever, from, if something, things that were in a book rarely ever cross over in animation, things in animation rarely ever crossed over into the movies. Like, everything basically trickled down from the movies and were expanded upon. Like, now we got all this cross pollination. We got the tribe, and we get the explanation that the tribe is basically a different sect of Mandalorians. Like, now we know that there are different types of belief systems and traditions on Mandalore that
Yeah.
makes Mandalore a little bit more believable and realistic. Like, you've got these extremists on, that are the tribe, the children of the Watch. We've been introduced to Death Watch in the Clone Wars. Now we've got the Watch and Mandalorian, or Din Djarin being a child of the Watch. We're reintroduced to the Kryze family with Bo-Katan and her sister being the Duchess of Mandalore during the Clone Wars. Like, all of that now is connected into the story of her history and her connection to the Darksaber. Her being the last true Mandalorian to wield the Darksaber, and Moff Gideon having it, and then her basically on a mission to get that back. Like, all of that to me is like, that stuff that I
Breaking up. Yo. Thing. Coop, you are frozen in time right now. Or is it me?
Oh, anybody here still? Technical difficulties. I'm not sure what just happened. Anybody still in the stream? It's still 4 people in the stream.
Oh man.
Yo, what happened?
Technical difficult. I don't know. You froze out and did not. Okay.
Dropped out. Okay.
Jesus. All right.
I'm back now. I don't know what happened. I don't know.
We need a higher M count on these transmissions.
Higher M count, something. Did I say something? Maybe
you said
did I upset Disney? I must have upset the mouse. I don't know what's going on here.
That's the agenda.
I must have been sequel bashing too hard.
Episode 3, I can definitely see them introducing some world building concepts with the different sects of the different tribes and all that, beliefs of the Mandalore. I think after seeing episode 4, it just felt like all of this, it just compounded the feeling of all these feeling like they're filler episodes.
Yeah,
if episode 4 would have moved in a different direction, I would have felt better about episode 3. As far as it being part of the story and not feeling like a filler episode.
Gotcha. Yeah. I can dig that too. For me, I do appreciate them. I appreciate the slower episodes like this one that don't
go anywhere.
It's not that. Well, no, to me this goes far because like, all right, Dark Forces, that's 1995. That's 25 years ago. Like you pull in content and sources from some stuff from a video game that's 25 years old and implemented into a series, and with the anticipation of it being a major plot point, that is insane. I never would have thought that would have ever happened. Like we've never had this level of integration in this Star Wars universe of stories, not to this degree.
And that's a major part to Dave Filoni, I would assume.
Absolutely.
Shout out to Dave Filoni.
Yeah, like
these subtle cuts, these deep cuts.
I see his vision, man, and I'm like, I see what you're doing, and I salute it because I'm like, this is exactly the type of content that we've been asking for forever. This level of continuity in the subject matter is what we've been asking for forever. And so to finally be getting it is like, I'm here for all of it.
And I can see on the production side too, how there's a balance there. You got to have a certain amount of things happen in each episode.
So. Yeah. You gotta let the story breathe a little bit too. Like,
well, it's been breathing for 3 episodes. I'm gonna keep saying that. We've been breathing ever since we killed the crate dragon.
Yeah, I think the only one for me is still episode 2 that feels that one I would definitely qualify as filler. But everything else has been world building because I know all of it is gonna come back into the story. There's going to be further explanation and further, we're going to get back to those points and expand on those a little bit more. Do you think the world building is directed more to viewers familiar with the Filoniverse and tie-ins? Yes, absolutely, 110%. This is why these things are happening, because like the hardcore fans really create all of the buzz for Star Wars at this point. Like when we get excited over something, like we go and we start talking about it like I am right now, and like explaining like how all of this stuff ties together and it weaves into a larger story and a larger universe, and like that gets other people more excited into what this show can potentially do.
Yeah, like word of mouth is like the best form of marketing.
Yeah, like that's something that they lost with the sequels because we weren't that it was hard. Trash. Yeah, it was hard to like I couldn't
can't sell trash.
Right. I couldn't see how they were going to move the story forward. So it was hard for me to talk about and be excited about like, oh, what's coming out, what can happen in episode 7 or well, not 7, but 8 and 9. Like 7 kind of set this very, very loose, broad foundation. And I'm like, it can go in a number of directions based on this. Like there were certain things that they set up that were echoed in the extended universe, but I don't think that they were aware of how close some of the things that they were referencing were. Like Finn, for instance, like he was Kyle Katarn. Like we've seen the stormtrooper defect to the New Republic or the Rebellion, become an officer and then become a Jedi. Like we've seen that. That was Kyle Katarn. This in Dark Forces back in '95 is where we see this. Like, so, watching it for me, I'm like, oh, I know Kyle Katarn. I see Finn. I see the arc. I understand. Okay, so he's the Kyle Katarn for this trilogy. That's awesome. But then they don't do anything with it, and I'm like, I'm now I get confused because I'm like, how? What was the point of that setup? Like, I don't understand it. I don't think they even understand or knew what they were setting up with that. Like,
that's wild.
Like they pretended like it was a new concept, and I was like, nah.
I think they intended to pretend in order to increase that that marketing hype. That's what that's was.
Possible. I think
that's 100% what they did. They're not stupid.
I wouldn't call them stupid, take. But I don't think that they knew. There's no way they know the lore like hardcore fans do. They're not hardcore Star Wars fans. They're business people.
But they were specific in how they promoted that character.
I think
they knew how that promotion would take. So
I think J.J. Abrams had a plan for the character, but they didn't tie all of that together. Like they had each of those directors write their own movie. That was stupid. So there's no continuity between the directors. So whatever J.J. Abrams is setting up in his movie, Rian Johnson doesn't really know. Like he gets the script, but it's not like they're having, what should have happened was all three directors sit down, write the trilogy out, and then they start shooting the movies. But what they actually
did they say why they wanted three directors in the first place?
Because three different people directed the original trilogy. George Lucas directed episode 4. What's his mentor? I forgot. Somebody else directed episode 5. And then
it was what's his name? Indiana Jones dude.
Irvin Kershner directed episode 5. A brain fart. That was a brain fart. And then Richard Marquand, directed episode 6. So they were trying to duplicate that for the sequels. But the difference is George had already done 3 treatments for all 3 films. So like the story loosely was already there. Yeah. So all the directors had to do was just build on his treatment and like take it in a different direction. Like, yeah, of course, there were things that George Lucas retconned in his own story with the original trilogy, like Luke and Leia being related, Darth Vader being Luke's father, like all that was done on the fly. But because they had that treatment there and that loose structure format as a template in the guide, they can kind of deviate and take this main core story into another direction, and it worked because they're still following this foundation that is the treatment for the films.
I didn't know that was on the fly. Him making Vader his father.
Yeah, Darth. Okay, so Vader's name was Darth. Like his first name was Darth, and his last name was Vader. Like that wasn't the title. Like this is how like this dude retconned a lot of stuff in the directing of those 3 movies, but it worked.
Yeah, so Darth. So he never intended for that to be a title for Sith. Then that all came later.
That was all later. Like he that's why Tarkin called Vader Darth. He said there was a scene when he's on the Death Star and he and Vader are talking and he just calls Vader Darth. And it's because that was in the script. Darth Vader was the dude's name. Like he wasn't Anakin Skywalker. Like,
well, they wouldn't have known he would have been Anakin, right?
No, he was not. Darth Vader was not Anakin Skywalker. Like Darth Vader was Obi-Wan's apprentice. Like Obi-Wan had Anakin and Darth Vader as apprentice. Darth Vader turned to the dark side, and originally he had Obi-Wan killing Anakin, and that was going to be the reveal.
What?
That Obi-Wan killed Luke's father. Like Darth Vader in Episode 5 was going to tell Luke that Obi-Wan killed his father. That was in the script, and then on the set, George Lucas whispered in David Prowse, who's the physical actor for Darth Vader, to change the line and say that I am your father.
Damn, the midichlorians was flowing through him right there.
That
was a critical moment. That was a butterfly effect moment right there.
It was, and it was like literally the best thing that ever happened that's the best retcon that ever happened in a movie in cinematic history. It's the greatest retcon of all time.
It's big. Lord God dropping nuggets. With my button at.
Lord God. Yeah. So, but now that you have a foundation and you got expectations and you got 40 years of content to pull from, like you can't just start retconning stuff on the fly. Like that's not gonna work no more. We got rules.
You know, that adds more to my working Obi-Wan theory.
Yeah, we gotta have an Obi-Wan come to Jesus episode.
Yeah. Once I've watched it all the content. So okay, yeah, this is starting to make more sense. Obi-Wan was always destined for this BS. He originally was meant to kill Luke's father. Ain't that something?
That was originally, yeah.
Obi-Wan was born from a world of BS.
That's what Vader was going to tell Luke. It doesn't necessarily mean it was true.
It was true. That moment would have been too serious for him to be a lie. It was true.
Nah, not unless he's trying to get him turned to the dark side. And tell like the dude that is your mentor, the person that you look up to, is the one who killed your father.
I don't think he would lie in that moment though. That's like
absolutely. He absolutely. You're talking about a Sith. Like you're talking about a Sith Lord. These people are super manipulative.
That's too deep though. That's too deep for it not to be true. Like Obi-Wan killed that man.
That's exactly why he would say that. That is exactly why he would say that. It's what Palpatine did to Vader over Padme. Yo, the Vader comic is so good, yo. Like that Vader comic, man. Like you get you get to see how manipulative Palpatine was to Vader. Like, dude built fail safes into the suit so that he was more susceptible to Force lightning. Like he did all type of nefarious stuff. Like,
man, yeah.
But that's the rule of two. That's the rule of two. Like I got to get you to hate me so much that you'll do anything to take me out. But that also keeps me on my toes because once you're worthy enough, once you're powerful enough to take me out, then that means you are worthy to be the master at that point.
I can dig that.
Rule of two is brilliant as far as like how it works with the Sith. Like, man, that thing is potent because you got one to crave the power and one to wield it. And if you crave the power, then you got to do anything. It's like it's no rules. Like you got to do whatever to take the power if that's what you want. And at the same time, if you're the master, you got to know that he can do your Padawan can do whatever by any means necessary to take you out. So you got to stay on your P's and Q's because you got one slip up and it's over for you. Creates an interesting dynamic. It's a great dynamic.
That's interesting. But yeah, I'm working on my Obi-Wan hate. I'm trying to keep it fair and balanced.
Well, when you have that,
so I told you this the other day. So I'm going through the Clone Wars. I'm on season 4, and there's a small 3-episode arc. Is it 3 episodes or 2? Anyway, Obi-Wan lies to Anakin about his death. Anakin thinks he's dead. He thinks his master, his sensei, is dead. And Obi-Wan made him believe it.
It's part of the plot.
It ain't right.
It's not right at all. It's not right.
He
But
didn't
that's
trust him. His reason was he didn't trust Anakin. How you gonna have a sensei master that don't trust you?
wait, that wasn't his reason.
That was his reason. He
That
said
was
we
not
can't
his
trust
reason.
Anakin's emotions.
No, that's not what he said. That's
What did he say?
he said that it would, if he knew, then it wouldn't be authentic. Like his anger and his frustration wouldn't be authentic if he knew that Obi-Wan was actually alive. They needed him to believe that he was dead. That was part of the ploy.
So they used him.
Yeah,
Play with his emotions. Play with his heart. See,
I didn't say
I
it was
wonder why
right, but
Anakin
this was
turned dark.
that,
Obi-Wan.
that's the whole point. That's why that show was brilliant. Like it shows how corrupt the Jedi Council were, because they should have never commissioned that mission in the first place.
It was Obi-Wan's idea.
And the council went along with it.
So people see this, they watch it, but they don't see it. They don't give Obi-Wan the credit.
Oh, I'm just like I'm reading this comment.
I just saw a huge comment.
Yeah, I'm not putting that on screen.
Yeah, don't yeah.
Oh God. Okay. I think Obi-Wan had. I think if Obi-Wan had not fought with Anakin. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If Obi-Wan didn't win that fight on Mustafar, like he would have took out the Emperor like with ease.
Yeah.
I mean, Anakin was the most powerful Force user in the galaxy, but his arrogance got the better of him.
I wouldn't call it arrogance.
Him jumping off of that little platform, that was dumb.
He was mad. He was just angry. Obi-Wan brought his
Dumb
baby moms with him. He was
hubris.
Like,
you know what? Yes, hubris. That is a great word. Hubris. Yeah, his hubris got the better of him easily. Yeah, Anakin was the dude. He's clearly the chosen one. But I also don't like the that's part of the reason why I don't like the sequel trilogy. They retconned him being the chosen one. Anakin inevitably brings balance to the Force when he destroys the Emperor. Like that
was the whole point like, of the 6
you bringing him back. You know, you just retcon the whole arc of the entire franchise.
Yeah,
that's stupid. Like I cannot. I'm never going to be okay with that. And then, all right, so cool. If you bring the Emperor back, then you need to bring Force Ghost Anakin back to finish him off. Because like either way, he has to be the one to end that. Like you can't have. I know you can't have Rey kill the Emperor. Like I just no.
But she used 2 lightsabers.
That's the craziest thing I ever. This man just he used force lightning on the entire fleet of ships, but he can't get through 2 cross lightsabers. Like get out of here, bro. Like what?
Yeah. Who 2 lightsabers have exponential power? Like
when he did that, like when he shot that lightning up to the ceiling and started hitting all those ships, I was like, bro, it's over for it. Like you can't stop that man. Like what? And she stands in front of him, crossing 2 lightsabers, and just blocks all of that. Alrighty, whatever, man.
She had the ghosts with her. She had the Force ghosts with her.
Okay, but then see, once again, this is where if Anakin had popped up and was standing in front of it, eating that lightning, and then just walked right through that stuff and took the dude out like that, bro, I would have got out of my seat.
That would have been cool to see. But yeah, but Disney, you know, they wanted to own it. They wanted to, you know, they bought Star Wars. They said, this is ours now. Take that.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. Now they retcon the whole thing by making her like what? Like no, the whole to me the whole point of you defeating your ancestor as a since you are a Palpatine, like they missed the whole duality of that moment. Like you, the one who destroyed the Jedi is the creates the ancestor that rebuilds it. Like that's poetic. Like I like that. Let her be a Palpatine. Like like a Palpatine becoming Grandmaster of the Jedi Order. How poetic.
Yeah.
I'm with that. I'm definitely okay with that. Like, no, you can't just all of a sudden decide, oh, I'm a Skywalker. I'm like, no, you're not. You're not a Skywalker. Like, I'm sorry. Sorry, Disney.
She had the ghost with her though. That's what made her the Skywalker. The
And
ghost. If
no,
y'all
she's a
can't tell, I'm
Palpatine.
being sarcastic.
She is a Palpatine. You got to own that, man. You're a Palpatine. Own it. Make it right. Fix the galaxy. Just like Luke tried to do, or should have been trying to do with the Skywalker name. You got to repair your name. Repair your family legacy.
Oh, speaking of Luke Skywalker, I wouldn't mind seeing him pop up in one of these series, whether it be Mandalorian or if Ahsoka gets a show. I want to see that.
I'm kind of mixed on that because if you do that right, he's going to be a better version of himself than he was in 8, right?
Yes.
And it's going to piss me off automatically because I'm gonna be like, well, how does this? How did you become this hermit? Like
You just
you
gotta
can't
act like
explain
that
that.
doesn't exist. Like we just gotta. That's out there. That stands alone. It doesn't. It didn't really happen.
No, it happened.
Bad dream.
It happened.
Bad dream.
It happened. It happened. Now you got to make amends. That's why you got to have like Ahsoka. You got to have Ezra. You got to have you got to fill in this 40-year gap. Like I said, run a concurrent series that to the sequels, but elsewhere in the galaxy that is not influenced at all by what happened, and that becomes the main story. Let the concurrent series that things happening in the galaxy at the same time as the sequels, which is why I hope that they bring in the Thrawn stuff and the Ascendancy, which by the way, I just finished reading Chaos Rising, the new Thrawn trilogy. Well, the first book in the trilogy. Thrawn is a phenomenal read. Like reading the Thrawn novels, bro. Like if you haven't read any of the Star Wars novels, comic books, if you haven't done anything outside of the movies and TV shows, I highly recommend picking up the Thrawn series because that is like I love that series. Like reading any of the Thrawn novelizations is phenomenal. But even in that, they're setting up some big stuff happening in the chaos and in the Outer Rim, or beyond the Outer Rim, which I hope they bring into the live action sphere. But we've gone almost an hour and 30 minutes.
Yeah. We got people moving around down here.
You got some commotion. Disney thought they knew exactly what fans wanted, but failed to take Star Wars fans into consideration. Another example of hubris, actually. Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's exactly my point and my frustration. The previous version of Thrawn books. Yes, so the Heir to the Empire is the original Thrawn novelization. And I would say that the biggest difference between the Heir to the Empire Thrawn and the new Thrawn novels is that Thrawn in Heir to the Empire, the original trilogy, he was an Imperial loyalist, like diehard Imperial. And the new series, he is his true loyalties lie with his people and the Chiss ascendancy. And everything he does is to aid his people, and that's basically what's driving all the decisions that he makes as a character in the new trilogy and then this upcoming trilogy that they just launched. And it's actually for me a pleasant turn because it can one, they can make this. He's not really. He was definitely the villain in the Heir to the Empire trilogy. This in this format, there's an opportunity for him to be a major hero, and I would like to see him be a hero, not because the villain version of Thrawn was great, but what the Chiss oligarchy and all of that represents in the galaxy and how they are positioned, how they operate, they're completely different from the Empire. Like, and it would be nice to see a strong, authoritative force in the galaxy that isn't inherently evil. That's the difference between the Ascendancy. Like the Ascendancy are kind of like, I would liken the Ascendancy to the imperial, well, not imperial, but the ancient Chinese dynasties that were isolationist. They kind of closed themselves off from the outside world, and were selective in who they traded with, if at all. That's kind of how the Chiss are and the Ascendancy operate at this point in time, and I think that's cool. It's different for Star Wars, and I think different is good at this point, especially with how they operate. But like Ascendancy, I'm going to do a review for Ascendancy, but they dive into the politics of the Chiss and how that oligarchy works, and the 9 families, and then the minor families, and the cool. like the politics of it, like how, you know, the 9 families and the military are separate. Like the military is kind of sort of independent, but they do have to report to the government and to the 9 ruling families. But the expansionary fleet is very independent. Like they're only only loyal to the military and to the military's interests. When you become an officer, or no, not a commander within the once you reach the first command rank in the expansionary fleet, you have to drop your family title, because you no longer serve your family. Like everything you do is in service of the military, and like they introduce all that in the book, and it's phenomenal. And they've set up a lot in the for that part of the universe, and I'm definitely waiting for May 4th to come for that second book to drop.
Yeah, I want to see that world. Let's get a trilogy of that.
I think we're going to get it. Not a trilogy, but I think we're going to get a series. Like there's a rumored Thrawn and Ezra series coming to Disney Plus, and I hope it takes place in the inside of the Chaos and in the Ascendancy. I won't say why those two are paired. You'll need to watch Rebels, but I'm hoping that whole series is within the Ascendancy, and we see Thrawn as the hero that he is with the Chiss and the Ascendancy, because it's his actions.
So
for
the book I had
are amazing.
That I borrowed from you, which that's part of the trilogy.
That's the second trilogy. That's the new Disney era trilogy, where he is
before. So what I'm reading is before Rebels.
It's before happen. And it run concurrent. Like the second book is concurrent to Rebels, and the third book is also concurrent.
All right, bet.
Yeah, you can read the first book and you won't have any Rebels spoilers in it. But the second, and the spoilers that are in it are kind of, I would say, minor Rebels spoilers, because they kind of reference some major events that happen in the series, but don't go into too much detail as to how they transpired. But they are referenced, and they kind of play a pivotal role in the story within the books. But yeah, you definitely want to watch Rebels first before you get into the next 2 books. But you're almost there. You're got 3 more seasons of the Clone Wars to watch.
So many. But yeah, I do want to say a positive thing about this latest episode of The Mandalorian. The sound and audio were great. And my favorite moment, it's small, but it was big for me, was hearing the stormtroopers in the base. They sounded like the original stormtroopers from like episode 4 or 5.
TK41, why aren't you at your post?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Yeah, like the sound engineering and the music has been great. I also want to point out the fact that when they pan onto those clones that are in the I won't say maybe they're not clones. I don't know what they are, but the thing that was in that suspended in that Bacta tank.
Oh, the Resident Evil tyrant, the dead tyrant thing.
Yeah, when they pan to that, it does play Snoke's theme music.
Oh God, no.
So but it's also, but see, here's the Snoke's theme is also the same theme that is played in Revenge of the Sith when Palpatine is talking to Anakin about Darth Plagueis. When they're at the opera and it's got the that weird like it's that low. I think it's really just like some just dark side music, really.
All right, but in that same room where you saw that. There was a scene where the two guards were like, destroy the evidence. They started blasting the monitors in the display console. I'm like, this is not destroying any evidence. Like, just so y'all know, you have to destroy the servers if you want to take out the evidence, the data. Like, the monitor is not going to do anything.
Unfortunately,
he shot that monitor like 5 times. Like, yo.
Fortunately for those Imperials, they kind of took care of it for them when they took the shields down on the base. Let the lava take it, but you're right. That was
like with the alarms going off, it was going to blow anyway. So,
but there should have been a kill switch. Like they could have put a kill and you didn't have to show it. It could have been like underneath the console that they hit, and then all of a sudden everything just starts sparking. You know what I'm saying? Like it could have been that simple. Just fry it.
They could have ran a command. RM-F full root.
Okay, that's a great question. Had the Chiss come across the Vong in the lore? So I'm assuming you're asking in the EU. I don't think I don't recall the Chiss being a part of the Vong War, and I might be mistaken, but I don't remember them being a war. However, the Grisk and villain, well, they kind of tease something at the end of the Ascendancy book that I believe, I don't know if they were the Grisk, but there's another presence out in the galaxy that is watching and monitoring the Chiss, and they pose a very ominous threat against the Empire. So if that threat is what Thrawn is going to be facing in his series, it's going to be phenomenal, because the way they position this in the book, if you liken Thrawn to Sherlock Holmes and Spock, this threat that's teased at the end of the book would definitely be his Moriarty. So if they, I don't know if they're going to explore that. I'm assuming they're going to explore that in the books, but like I would love to see that in a series, because the way that Thrawn's mind works and how he just how he thinks, like his thought process is the best part of his character, and the way he's like,
that's very much like
he's like 10D chess. Like he's on multiple levels, and he's multiple steps ahead of his opponents. Like, and it's like, yo, this dude right here is a problem. Like,
and he reads people as soon as he sees them. He judges everything.
People, situations, like his analysis of the world around him is just like, it's brilliant. Like, and that's why it's like so fun to read, because it's like, yo, this dude, how he draws these conclusions that are inevitably right, it's like out of this world. Like, it's nothing. There's no other character in Star Wars like him.
It's almost like a different version of a Force gift.
Yeah, almost. And I think that because of it, there's a caveat with the Chiss. They lose their force sensitivity at a certain age. Like the boys lose their force sensitivity early in life, and the girls lose it like around the age of 13. But the Chiss use the females when they're young. They're pilots within the military. They're navigators, because they can use the force to navigate hyperspace. Like they don't have the same traditional hyperdrives that the Republic in the known part of the galaxy uses. Like they use these what they call
Yeah.
skywalkers is what they're called. It's really cool. It's really cool.
They got
And I was like,
organic hyperdrive.
yeah, but that's kind of sort of how
GMO.
I think that's how the Jedi of old used to use the Force to travel through space, because we know that there are bases, like they had temples um on Jeddah. They had temples on Octo, Tython, and Ossus, and I believe there's another planet, but they're kind of like all the same age. And it was basically before the hyperdrive was developed. So I think that the Jedi also used this technique back in the old Republic to navigate hyperspace before anyone else could.
Right.
Yeah, no, like that's the key. That's his signature ability, like him analyzing artwork to analyze and to deduce uh the culture's biases, their strengths and weaknesses, and how effective they are in combat, like how they fight. He analyzes their artwork and how they structure certain things, and the materials that they use, the way they use the materials. It all gives them insight into how they fight. And it's like, even amongst the Chiss, like no one else does that. But yeah, that's why I like this book, because I think this is the first time we get to see Thrawn with his people, and him being a hero, really, in the story. And I want to see that continued.
All right. Let's see what they come up with May 4th.
Absolutely, in the sequel. So hey, man, we're gonna call it here. It's been a great episode. We went way longer than we normally do. We usually try to keep these things under an hour, but this was a great conversation.
I'm going to bed.
He's tired, bro. He's had a long week. He's got a big exam coming up.
Yeah, exam Monday.
So yeah, hey, appreciate you all for joining us tonight. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe and leave a like on the video. If you enjoy this content, we will be back next Friday, same time, 9:00 Eastern Standard Time, to break down a huge episode, which is I think we're all excited in anticipating. I also heard a rumor that next week's episode is 58 minutes. So we are in for a real treat next week.
That just got me excited.
Yeah.
I'm really so glad you could stay.
Yeah.
I enjoyed your questions, your engagement. That's always a pleasure.
Absolutely, man. Definitely appreciate your appreciate you for joining us. Hey, thank you all once again. As I said at the top, JBM, you got any closing remarks?
Just be more.
Just be more. Yes. All right. Without further ado, like I always say, peace, love, and blessings, and may the force be with you always.